Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're doing good and well. So it's time for another episode in my series of horror films first watch tier lists. Now, it's been a while since my last one of these. The last one I did was back in October, and the reason for the delay is mostly because of my laptop issue. I had a problem with the laptop fan, and the fan was making loads of noise, and it was tending to do that during Zoom calls as well. So the way I film these videos is via Zoom calls. So obviously, I couldn't do these videos without lots of really uncomfortable noises happening from my laptop and coming out on the video. So apologies for the delay. But I've got the 10 films here, the 10 all pretty recent films again. I usually do recent films for these videos, and they're films I've all seen for the first time. So you've got When Evil Lurks, Night Swim, a film I've just very recently seen, just came out. It's a new 2024 release. You got Thanksgiving, you got Talk to Me, Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, Revenge, Possessor, Perpetrator, Watcher, and It's a Wonderful Life. Of course, a spin on the classic film It's a Wonderful Life. The other thing I want to say, there would be more horror films on this tier list, but because I've watched a lot of 80s horror slasher movies for the first time as well, but I'm doing a separate video on those. I'm going to be doing those 80s slasher horrors in a separate tier list. So look out for that in a couple of weeks' time. All right, so I'm going to be talking about this Argentinian horror film directed by Damien Rugna first, called When Evil Lurks. This is one of these sort of, this is a very gory, very brutal possession horror film. And I like the lore in it. I really also like the sort of the shock elements of this film, which are done very, very well. You know, the thing I think this film does incredibly well is the way it does its really shocking horror scenes. You know, they stay with you after you've seen them because there are some really quite truly shocking scenes in this movie. What I didn't like so much about Evil Lurks, and where I'm perhaps not quite, a lot of people in the horror community have absolutely loved this one, and where I'm not quite so much aligned with people on this, is that I didn't feel really very connected to the characters in this film for whatever reason, and therefore I found it difficult to feel fully involved with it all the way through. There were parts of the film I did feel involved with, and maybe even parts of the characters I felt involved with, but just not consistently. And that was my biggest issue with this film. That's why it's not quite going to go into S tier, but I did think it was very good. I can understand why people love it. I do still recommend you go and see this one if you like possession horror, if you like gory horror, shocking horror, you'll enjoy When Evil Lurks for sure. So that's going to go into A tier. Next up, we got Night Swim. As I say, a new film from 2024 came out this year, directed by Bryce McGuire. It's a Blumhouse film, and it's about this sort of haunted swimming pool that this family, they move into this new house, and there's a haunted swimming pool. Lots of tropes and cliches in this film. It's also a very slow burn. I mean, I was looking at my watch half an hour into this film. That's usually not a good sign, and it wasn't a good sign for Night Swim. However, despite my criticisms of those things, what I thought the film did quite well was the way it started. I thought it set the scene reasonably well. Loved the use of music in a couple of the swimming pool scenes and the way they distorted the music. I enjoyed that personally. And Kerry Condon, great performance from her with, for me, quite limited material. I thought she did really well in this film, given what she had. I think she's a good actor. So I'm going to put this one into C tier. Nothing special, but nothing terrible to me. It was disappointing as a first film to see for 2024. Let's hope the only way is up after I've seen Night Swim. So next up, we got Thanksgiving, directed by Eli Roth. And, this is not as mean-spirited as other Eli Roth horror films, I'll say that. Maybe give this one a chance if you like slasher horror and you like them slightly less mean-spirited. I say that, and there was one or two very mean-spirited kills in the latter part of the film still. But for the most part, it was pretty entertaining. It was good fun. It was a blast as a slasher movie. I thought it's one of his better films. Um, but, despite that, I still didn't think it was a great film. I think I'm going to put it into B tier. I quite like the final girl in this film, who was called Jessie. I think Jessie or Jessica reminds me of Jessie Burlingame from the original Wrong Turn film. Maybe because she also looks a little bit like Jessie Burlingame as well. So I kind of couldn't help but get that sort of that character out of my head in this film. But yeah, it was pretty good. But yeah, I still think that there was something about this film that I still didn't connect with. A lot of shallow characters, as you come to expect in a lot of slasher films. But yeah, a lot of shallow characters still in Thanksgiving. Next up, we've got Talk to Me. Now, this one has been very well received, and I put it as my number 4 in my top 10 horror films of 2023. This was directed by Danny and Michael Philippou, brothers who are also YouTubers, doing one for the YouTube community, right? And this is a great film, actually. It really is. I mean, predictably, because if you saw my top 10 list, you'll know I'm getting, you know, I really enjoyed this film. I really liked it. It's an S tier film. I actually felt like the trailer definitely didn't do this one justice. There are trailers that sometimes don't do their films justice, and for me, the Talk to Me trailer didn't do this film any kind of justice. But I loved the film. I thought it was great. It's a modern spin on possession horror for me. The way you have, I liked the idea if you kind of hold this hand, and if you hold it for too long, then the demonic spirit sort of transfers into you. I liked that idea. I like the way it was filmed with the modern spin of having people filming it on their phones, kind of gives the film a modern anxiety element as well. Really good film. Can't go anywhere else but S tier. Talk to Me. Great movie. Next up, I'm going to talk about Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. And actually, you know what? This was a little bit of a pleasant surprise. All the other Resident Evil films I've seen have never been very good. I mean, I quite like the original Resident Evil film by Paul Anderson, but those films, they're mostly mindless action movies. Let's be honest, they're kind of mindless action films. Welcome to Raccoon City, whilst yes, it was still a little mindless, I thought it was a bit more faithful to the game, although it's been a long time since I played the game. Forgive me if you're a die-hard Resident Evil fan. I'm sorry if some elements of this film don't match the original games, but I thought it did pretty well. I loved the action sequences. I loved Kayla Scodelario as Claire Redfield. Again, I can't quite remember Claire Redfield's character that well. Like I said, it's been a long time since I played the games, but I just liked her performance as a performance. That's all I'm saying. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. I watched this between Christmas and the New Year, and I had a real fun time. Um, Not a great film, but it's going to go into B tier. You know, I actually, if you like Resident Evil, I'd recommend you watch this. I had a really good time with this. I thought it was solid, really good action sequences. CGI wasn't terrific, but just fun action sequences in the film, and a little bit more to it, I would say, with story as well than a lot of the Paul Anderson films. Next up, we've got Revenge. This is a rape revenge film. You know, think of films like I Think I Spit on Your Grave and that kind of thing. Very good film. What I loved about Revenge was the way it was shot, you know, and the intensity of the movie. You know, the injury detail when the lead character is wounded, the injury detail and the wound detail is really up close, and it makes the scene where she's tending to her wound really sort of intense and suspenseful. And I like that about this film. I love the cinematography. Obviously, the film, you know, it has a predictability to it, which these films tend to have. You know that you're rooting for her, you want her to get her revenge on these scumbags. I mean, one of them sexually assaulted and raped her, so you're rooting for her to get her vengeance on these scumbags, basically. And you know, it's predictable in a sense that you know, it's a spoiler, so click off now, I guess. But it's obvious that she's going to get her revenge, even from the film poster. I think if you you know, the film poster didn't give it away, and you're rooting for her every step of the way. And I'm going to put it into A tier. Good film, you know. I don't know many other sort of rape revenge films, but this was just, I just thought this was good. This was good. Definitely worth watching. Next up, we've got Possessor. This was directed by Brandon Cronenberg, and it's another really good film from him for me. This was from 2020. It's very dark again, very bizarre, you know, very disturbing sequences. You've got in this film, this is about Tasia Voss. I think that's how you say the character name. This, you know, I watched this film way back, I think at the end of October, so it's kind of a bit distant in my memory, so I'm trying to remember the details of this now and struggling a little bit. But it was very, very good, very strong. Again, good performances in the movie, a good enough story. I liked the brain implant technology idea that this film had and the concept of it. Pretty intense throughout. For some reason, though, I didn't quite enjoy it as much as Infinity Pool, but I still think it was a really solid film. Very well done again. Pretty much a fan of anything with the Cronenberg name at the moment. So Possessor is still going into A tier. Now, next we've got Perpetrator. This is a film directed by Jennifer Reeder, and this was pretty interesting stuff. Very unique flavor to it. The use of music seemed to be quite prominent in the movie, and I liked the way the music was used. It's a very arty film, not like anything I can think I've seen very recently. So it gets points for that at least. But the film is also a bit confusing, and I don't always feel totally invested in the characters in it as well. It's a little bit strange the way it's done and sort of the way it works as a story sequentially. I just all found that a bit weird. But it's not bad. It's about this girl that sort of has a spell cast upon her called Forevering. And she basically, her purpose in the film is to track down this guy, um, or this person who's responsible for these girls going missing in the town. So, no, I quite enjoyed it actually. It's a bit slow, it's a bit weird. I'm going to put it into B tier. It's not bad. If you want something very different from your typical, I guess, typical horror film of this kind, then maybe check out Perpetrator. It's not a bad film to me. It has a very low rating on IMDb, but I personally didn't. I thought it was quite good. Next up, we've got Watcher with Micah Monroe. I've actually got the DVD of this one here. There you go. There's Micah Monroe on the front cover. Yeah, I loved this film. I thought this was great. My only slight issue with the film is the end scene, the last scene, which I would have preferred it if they had had a darker ending, because I just think that would have made the film and the message of the film more effective. But everything else about this film was just spot on. As you guys may know, I'm a pretty big fan of Micah Monroe's and everything she's been in, including things like It Follows. And I enjoyed the performances of everyone else. And you've got Carl Klusman in this film as well, and Burn Gorman. And I liked the sort of, it's kind of a gaslighting thriller as well as being a bit of a suspenseful atmospheric movie. And you sort of, you feel very invested in the lead character here and wanting her to find out who this person, this creepy stalker guy is that's stalking her. And so you're very invested in her, and you want her to sort of obviously find out who this person is, or you're sort of rooting for her basically for a successful outcome. But despite that, I still think a darker ending would have worked better with the film and the way it was sort of set up for me personally. But yeah, a great film. Love the atmosphere. It's a slow burn film. It's a slow burn film. But compare this to Night Swim, which is a slow burn film. This is a slow burn in a great way. The way it's shot, the atmosphere, the acting, the story, basically the elements that make a film better are all here that aren't there with Night Swim. The conclusion, I suppose, although as I say, the last scene wasn't so good for me, but it was the choice really rather than how the scene was executed that I had a problem with. So yeah, I think actually I'm going to put Watcher in S tier with Talk to Me. Great film. Highly recommend Watcher. Since, as I got it on a physical copy, that's a sign that I liked the film. Next up, we've got the last film in the tier list. We've got It's a Wonderful Knife. This one was directed by Tyler McIntyre. And obviously, this is a spin on It's a Wonderful Life. You've got this girl that sort of wishes that she never existed, but because she wishes that and she gets transported to a parallel universe, the killer that she killed comes back in the other universe and starts causing havoc and wreaking and mayhem upon this community. So here's the thing with this. I enjoyed parts of it. I like Justin Long and his role in the film. But the killer was revealed way too soon, which meant some of the kind of any element of who done it is just gone in the early part of the film. I found the way that the lead character was sort of painted a bit weird, and they threw a lot into the film, too much, making it sort of feel more convoluted than concise. So yeah, to be honest, It's a Wonderful Knife. I'm going to put into C tier, but no D tier films. I thought I was going to have a D tier film. I suppose, Night Swim is the closest to D tier of all these films, but we've not quite got a D tier. Pretty strong standard stuff here. So Talk to Me and Watcher, S tier. I think they are the best of the bunch here, to be quite honest. Then next, all really good films. I'd still definitely recommend you check these ones out. When Evil Lurks, Revenge, and Possessor. All really solid horror flicks there. Then next down, you've got films which I'd say, depending on what you like, watch these. If you like a good action film, maybe watch Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. If you like a slasher horror, maybe give Thanksgiving a chance. If you like a weird, unique, very strange, if slightly clunky film, then go check out Perpetrator. So that's it. Thanks, as always, guys, for watching this. And yeah, hope you've enjoyed it. Until the next time, probably my next horror video is going to be the 80s slasher horror film tier list. So I'll see you there for that. Have a great rest of your Sundays, whatever you've got left of those. And until next time, bye for now.